as AgriTech, we get compared a lot with fintech, and I think I think that's very unfair in my opinion, because AgriTech is where fintech was 20 years ago.
That's exciting. That's flipping exciting, and I'm loving to hear that there's more of these stories coming out, and I'm so happy to have you on and talk. So let's dive into your journey as a founder. Welcome everybody to How Would You Build It? It's episode 24, and today I've got Zamokuhle, and he's from 2 startups, not just one, because that's how we hustle in South Africa. Zamo, nice to have you join us. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me, Barry. I'm awesome. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, no, look, we're good. I mean, it's the middle of winter and it's cold and flus are going around, but you know what? The hustle's what keeps us going. And if there's anyone I know that's hustling at the moment, it's you. So Zamo, do you want to tell us? There's Agricool, there's Thwala. You're in the logistics industry. Do you just want to give us a very quick background on what this industry that you're in and what you're trying to achieve with them?
Sure, 100%. Yeah, obviously, I tried to do many other things before I started to build Agrikool. Yeah, so after that, then I built Thwala. Just to give you some context, my background is in engineering, specifically agricultural engineering. So I've always been passionate about technology, how things work. And I remember when I was still a kid, when my parents buys me toy, I'll always dismantle them to see what was inside and stuff like that. So I've always had curiosity. So when I finished university, then I decided to start a startup, which was Agricool.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not exactly what it is today. So we had to do a lot of pivoting. We can talk about that later.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so basically what happened, since I do have a background in agriculture engineering and also myself, I've tried to be a smallholder farmer myself. So things didn't work out. I would lend money from some of my friends who are working in corporates and also employed by government. Then when I don't have money to buy agri inputs or agrochemicals, I'll then lend money from them. So we kind of like to try and build, like in farming stock fall, like agri stock fall. That never worked out, and we had to pivot a number of times. And now what we're building at Agrikool, we're just like a value chain enabler. We're building a marketplace where we're connecting buyers. On that side, we work with retail giants like Shoprite, Boxer, and many other local retailers like Food Lovers. And then also we connect with farmers. So our base of farmers ranging from like a smallholder farmer, like someone with a half a hectare, depending what they're planting, to someone with like 100, 200 hectares. And also we also connect and enable the environment or the ecosystem rather, by also get logistic providers. We also partner with some of the agri inputs as well, who source through us so that they can reach this market. And after I built Agrikool, like in 2.5 years into Agrikool, I think that was after I read the Lean Startup, the book Lean Startup. I think as you know about it.
Build, measure, learn.
Yeah, 100%. So what happened was that I was like, shit, I wish I had read this book before I started anything. But I had already started Agrikool. I was like, I just want to see, it's already late for Agrikool because we already passed the infancy stage on building and stuff. We already had customers and stuff. I wish I had read the book before I even started to talk to a customer. I said, I want to do something where I could build a business from scratch, following the principles that I've learned from the Lean Startup. So I said, I once thought of an idea before I started Agrikool where at some point I'd mistakenly forgotten my charger at home in Ladysmith. It was on a Friday. The following day was going to be a weekend, and I needed my charger as soon as I could get it. Courier companies are not working in South Africa, mostly in South Africa. So one of my friends said, you know what, just tell your sister, and also back home in Ladysmith, it's in rural areas. Courier services are inaccessible. Yeah. So apart from it being on a weekend, and one of us said, you know what, I think just tell your sister to go to a rank to that charger to a taxi driver, and here in Pietermaritzburg, you get it. Within 3 hours, I had my charger. So that was before COVID. That was before I knew about building startup logistics and all this. So I thought there was potential in using or leveraging already existing taxi network, moving stuff across the country. So, but then I started Agrikool. So after reading this book, the Lean Startup, I said, I'm going to try and build that business. So then I posted something on a WhatsApp. I said, hey guys, would you guys be willing to share your thoughts on your experience if you've ever used a taxi to move goods across the country? Like I had responses of over 40 people saying the questions around like, okay, have you used it? Yes, obviously it has to be someone who has used it. How much did you pay? What was the destination? Where did you drop up? And what was the experience? Why did you use it? Like, was it because it was more expensive, it was cheaper, it was convenient? I just wanted to know, like, why do people use the app and stuff like that? So some people will put in the comments like, yes, I've used taxis, but the big issue would be that maybe taxi drivers are like, it's difficult to deal with them. Like sometimes if maybe reasons they're not in a taxi rank, they will take the parcel back and then I get to lose the parcel. Although some of them are I build a logistic company leveraging, please, if you build that, I'm selling products online, I'd like to use it. Already, when I was just trying to get like customer feedback, I already had customers from that. People like, I want to use that. He said, what you're trying to build? He said, oh, this could be exciting. I was like, I don't want to build another startup. I was already struggling enough with without knowing, I'd already found myself building something. That was before it called Thwala. Then I went to taxi driver. I said, hey guys, do you guys carry parcels for people? I said, yeah, we do. What challenges do you face? They say, listen, this is not my core business. So if you give me like a parcel, say in Cape Town, and someone is going to receive it, they need to be there at a taxi rank. Because if they're not there, then it's an issue. That's when I thought about having Thwala points. That's when Thwala was born, to say, if we could have points where someone drops at a Thwala point, we consolidate that those parcels, give them to a taxi driver, they go to another Thwala point, they drop it, and then people come collect when it suits them or it becomes more convenient for them. So Thwala was, but I'd say I would credit a lot of my experience at Agricool building Agrikool, which is an AgriTech, because it's a logistic company, like you said. Because you have to. I always say, like, I've moved fresh produce, highly perishable, from the furthest point of the country in remote areas, like to the furthest point down there. So if a parcel, I can move it.
Yeah, exactly. I want to double down on that perishable thing, because that was one of the first things that I thought, okay, so I mean, you've uncovered a lot there, and that was fantastic. So thank you for all that kind of foundation. So we can just fly now. Lean Startup, great book. So on that perishable side of things, I mean, what in essence I've read about Agricool is that you are connecting, like you just said now, small farmers with your ShopRites and your boxes and your food lovers now, which is fantastic. I want to understand the farmer side, right? You know, so they didn't have a place to sell their produce. The perishable side of things, like how are you solving that problem for these smaller farmers where they didn't really understand how it is to get their produce from point A to point B to sell it? I mean, can you just explain that sort of supply chain that you're solving with Agricool?
Sure, 100%, Bobby. That's an interesting question. I think that's the most complex part of the value chain that we're dealing with. Firstly, I mean, I'm just going to call this like looking at the specs. Obviously, the first challenge is that you have to keep that temperature. You have to maintain the cold chain throughout the value. Especially, we've seen that. I mean, when we're still working, at some point as Agricool, we started working with the hawkers. That wasn't a big challenge. Like, as long as something looks good, it's of a good size, as long as the end consumer or the hawker gets the value for the money, they're happy. Once you start to supply ShopRite, Boxer, then things get tougher and tougher. So, to be honest, farmers had alternative markets. They could sell to bucket traders. But the problem with the market, it's very volatile. I mean, if you had to look at it from a hawker, if it rains, they don't have infrastructure. They can't sell on that day. Something as simple as that.
Exactly.
Part of nature that could make that environment volatile. So it means if someone is a bucket trader, like someone who goes buy from farmers in remote areas, go to like a CBD in Pietermaritzburg and sell. If it's raining in Pietermaritzburg and it's not like an ideal environment for a trader to trade, this guy is not going to go and procure that stuff, because even himself, the trader doesn't have infrastructure to maintain that freshness and all this stuff. So, and also on the other side as well, there's no predictability. I mean, one thing we appreciate from our big retail partners is that there's predictability. Like, for example, like ShopRite, I already know the orders up until this year, September. And also in September, I'll have until next year, April. So I already know my orders. So I could take those orders, convert them into contract farming, especially for smallholder farmers, because they need more. They need to predict how much it costs me to go and look at a bandwidth, the price, and say, this is the price I could sell ads, this is how much I'm going to make, all those kind of stuff. So but to answer your question, it's been like one of the biggest challenges. But we as Agricool try to like take the asset light approach. So we don't own trucks. Or initially the idea, let me put it this, was not to own big trucks and stuff like that. So we have third-party logistic providers. And I mean, one of the exciting things is that even Shoprite is one of our third-party logistic providers. So we do reverse logistics with them. If they done deliveries, say maybe in Richmond, Pietermaritzburg, they'll pass at one of our farm, load, and then go back. That helps everyone in the value chain. It helps them to maximize the utilization of the truck. It helps the farmer as well to get access to that affordable logistic service. And I mean, it helps to minimize traffic with, there's many things, environmental benefit that comes with that. You also have small guys as well around Durban, Pietermaritzburg that owns like 4-ton, 8-ton, 16-ton trucks. So some guys that helps us to go to smallholder farmers to source products. So we do try to have some tricks there and there to make sure. I mean, one of the things will be like, you know, for example, like tomatoes, we say, listen, a farmer is probably like 200 kilometers away from the market. So they must harvest it when it's still half ripe. When it's half ripe, so that it's still going to be in transit for a long period of time. But till when it gets to Shoprite or Boxer,
it's ready.
Retail partner, it's ready. It's the color that they want. Because if you harvest red, although you can still maintain that cold chain, you could change the color, whatever reason. We had to try some of those things. So, but I mean, and also getting the specs right, it's a big challenge. But we like there's many reasons why farmers are struggling, especially smallholder farmers are struggling to get their specs right. That is why we've had to diversify our supply base. Initially, we wanted to help smallholder farmers, but we said, listen, we have issues with getting consistent, good quality supply. So let us also get the medium size and some of the commercial guys to act as a buffer. We always prioritize to get smallholder farmers to supply retail markets. But if they don't have supply, we still have a commercial obligation to fulfill the orders to Shoprite.
Interesting.
I mean, if you think about it, if maybe there's nothing on the shelf, you as a customer, you want to buy peppers and it's not there, and someone tells that, oh, we're trying to be inclusive, and so like our black farmers, or they couldn't supply because of that. You don't really care. You just want your products. Because I mean, the consumer doesn't know like seasonality. They don't really understand all those issues. They just want the product to get it. Because of that, we had to innovate. Like, listen, I don't think we can have like 100% black emerging farmers. We had to get like medium-sized buffer. So if they don't have, we still maintain and keep and meet those KPIs that are required on your fulfillment and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. So what's interesting is you've spoken about pivots, and it sounds like your customer base, your personas that you're trying to solve. I mean, so I've worked in what we would label a marketplace, right? You've got, in your case, you've got the farmers and you've got the buyers, right? And you're trying to match them. And that's a challenge, right? And now your service is providing perishable goods, fresh foods. And I'm trying to understand the personas, because also in this whole frame, like you've said a lot, and it's I think about how you've pivoted towards the boxes and the food lovers for that predictability. But surely, like I read somewhere where you spoke about how there is a higher demand but less supply of actual fresh goods for the for the population, right? So you also we speak about the last mile as a service, right? You know, going into the townships. How are they getting serviced when, you know, is it worth pursuing, trying to help them and make them part of that marketplace? Or is it not profitable as a business to go there? And are you still trying to get to that? So like, can you just explain that conundrum for me?
Sure. I mean, like I did explain, remember I said, we look at our logistic model. We said we want to take an asset-light approach. We just want to outsource 100% of our logistics. One thing we realize, especially with the small holder farmers, is that, I mean, you know, what makes this very tricky is that even within the farming aspect of the business, like farmers as a farming, there's a small holder farmer, there's a medium size, they differ. Because at Agrikool, we don't really define these three by how much hectareage they have. It's mainly around infrastructure. We've seen with the farmers that we've seen that are successful is because they have access to infrastructure. So if you're a small farmer, we look at the roads and see how long does it take for you to harvest the pallets of green peppers, of tomatoes. It's infrastructure, because infrastructure enables you to achieve efficiency, if you think about it. So, I mean, the medium-sized guys, the commercial guys, not an easy. If you say, I need my order done by this time, more often than not, you have it ready because they've got like a grading machine. I mean, like an old Gogo from Umsinga on Greytown, they don't have that. And also, even apart from that, because it goes to like, say, Boxer Shoprites for lovers, they've got some stringent requirements as well when it comes to specs. Also cost you as well, because you need to have someone who's going to be like a field agent who just makes sure now and then before they harvest, is it the right size? Is it the right specs? Is it packed in the right way? I mean, some of these retailers, they just reject for like an improper parcel, I mean, like pallets in configuration. Maybe you had 40 instead of 30. And it makes sense. Understand logistics, you know how they sell to stores, they sell per pallet, which is 30. If you add more, put less, it messes up the system. So that's why this comes to these things. It's very costly for Agrikool now to service a smallholder farm, if you think about it, because then you need to have a personnel that makes sure they harvest, they plant. Even, I mean, we always thought farmers were struggling with access to markets. I mean, there's many guys that are doing like cooler. That's why they concentrate on agri inputs, which is great as well, because you can see, we start to realize that, I mean, it's not really, you know, like this is like an onion where you keep on peeling. Oh, I think the problem is with access to farm. No, it's not. I think it's logistics of soil. It's not. Or I think we just realize now the biggest challenge is around getting the right products. Retailers are always needing produce. The problem is getting the right produce that meets the specs of these.
So how are you solving this problem? Like, what is it that you guys are doing to solve that problem, to make sure that the right things? Yeah.
I mean, it's very challenging. It's one of the biggest challenges we're currently trying to solve right now. So one thing we've just realized that the reason why farmers are not getting the right, especially smallholder farmers, it's because they're scheming on what they're doing. Like, because, I mean, say maybe it costs like 80,000 rand to plant 30,000 heads of cabbage, but maybe they probably have access to, say, 20,000 or 40,000. They'll try and scheme and don't spray, which could have like an impact on your shelf life. Something as simple as that. You wouldn't be able to see, but when it goes to a retailer, I mean, it's have a problem with on the shelf life, on how it looks. I mean, even the cosmetic, that's also important. I mean, South African consumers, they want, it has to look nice and fresh. And I mean, we're one of the toughest market when it comes to retail and stuff like that. So you just realize they scheme. When you ask them, you realize that they don't have access to finance. But I mean, for you to find that problem, you have to first solve the access to markets, if that makes sense. We had to solve logistics and eventually. So now what Agricool started to doing is that we have some funding from SAB Foundation. We do co-investment with these farmers to say, listen, we have someone that we've recently hired who's also like a supply-based manager. They're just managing farmers, see what they're spraying. You just have to go to the farmer. And obviously, how we also do this in a more scalable way, we also partner with some of the agri input suppliers, someone who sells seedlings, fertilizers, because they've got interest as well, to help these small to develop this new market. So how we solve it is that you find that a farmer will say, like, I have 40,000 rand, I've been doing like 1 hectare. We'll say, listen, we can help you, give you co-invest in that project and give you an extra 20,000 rand. Still plant the same hectare, but try and optimize and get the best produce so you can get more money. Because one farmer, you just need to add like 10% to your budget to get 25 more on your price, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if I'm explaining it right. So sometimes you just put the right thing. Don't scheme on put every input right, get your seedlings on time, nurture your plants until they're right. Then you can get the best market, like Shoprites, they pay best price compared to you selling in the informal market. Not to say those are not good markets, but you have to diversify. If maybe for other reasons there was hail or there was some diseases, you can also sell to alternatives. You always aim high to achieve best. To achieve the best quality.
Yeah. So that's interesting. And just to reiterate, at the end of the day, the townships need these services, but it just sounds like it's just a mile too far in terms of solving. Or am I wrong in saying that? You're not, as a business, as Agricool, it's easier to go to the top, right? When I say the top, I mean the retailers, the big retailers.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like I did say, we don't really have some issues with the demand. As it stands, our retail partners spend over 200 million a month buying fresh produce. I'm talking about the ones who sign contracts. As Agricool, we're only servicing less than 1% of that. So the issue is on the supply side. We struggle to get those.
If you met somebody that said to you they wanted to go and help the informal, kind of market, what would your advice be?
Yeah, sure. If that person they probably wanted to help Agrikool.
No. If they wanted to service the informal markets, the hawkers and all of
sure.
that, what advice would you give to them? Because it sounds like you've
Sure.
tried it, but it's a difficult thing.
It was difficult. I mean, maybe before I just go into advice, let me just explain what challenges we had in the informal markets. Firstly, it's a very cash intensive market.
Okay.
In our respect, we had about 30 hawkers that were buying fresh produce from us on a daily basis. Okay. Each hawker spends on average 2,000 Rand buying fresh produce a day. So obviously, as Agricool, we didn't have like 100% market share of that 2,000 Rand. But let us assume we had 100%. It means with these 30 hawkers, at any given time, every day, you'll have to carry 60,000 Rand cash with you. That's a big problem. That
is a big problem, yeah.
That's a big problem. Obviously, there's many guys that are trying to solve that in the staff. Another problem I've already explained, it's also an open market as well, Bobby. It's difficult to get those guys to be very loyal because it's open markets. In the fresh produce, there's always going to be someone who could sell cheaper than you. So if that's the only proposition you have, are you possibly going to be out of business?
Yeah, that's interesting because I really thought that there was an opportunity there. I really feel.
I think there is. I'll tell you. I think there is an opportunity. I think there is an opportunity. But when you think about it, in contrast, when you look at the former retail markets, for you to supply these big retailers, they need to set up an account. You need to come and see the process, understand. You need to read the specs. For buyers, I don't know, probably takes 3 months for them to onboard. So it's not an open market. Even if the suppliers don't have a choice. They just have to wait until they have or try other alternate. But it has to be someone internally that has an account. So it's not as easy for them to just say, hey, I'm not gonna buy from there on, it's cheaper. It's not as easy, especially those well established because they've got systems and stuff like that. In formal markets, and also one thing that they really want is to get the value for the money. When you supply cabbage, for example, to ShopRite, the specs are saying it should be between, let's say, on average 2 kg. And people buy like checkers, let us say they target like a middle LSM, like a middle class. So someone in the middle class that buys cabbage, if you think about it, they just buy it to make like a what do you call it? Like a salad or
coleslaw.
Coleslaw, that's what they call it, the coleslaw and stuff. It's so easy to see. But someone who's a lower LSM, especially with the inflation and stuff, like when they buy cabbage, they want to make a stew. So they want the value, they want a big cabbage for 10 Rand. But also someone who buys at Woolies and they don't really want big cabbages. That's why you never find like a 4 kg. So that's the problem in the informal market. If someone has got a bigger size cabbage than you're already out. If someone they charge less, there's many variable things. And we even had to try like buy now, pay later, so we could try and create some happiness. But it was still a challenge. They were very poor repayment rates. We really struggle with that market.
That's so interesting.
Also, and another one of the biggest reason why it's a challenge to service, it also depends with where is the informal market located at. So like if you had to service like rural informal markets, they don't have alternative mostly. Here in the ones in big towns like cities rather, like Pietermaritzburg and Durban, Durban has got Durban fresh produce markets. Firstly, they'll always prefer to go there because it's a one-stop shop. It's almost hard for a platform like us to have all the products. And at the market, they can always drop prices and make them cheaper. That's when they start, because probably you're not selling onions up. We don't have any producers locally that does onions. So you can see it's only those dynamics where the market always outpriced. And sometimes the market as well, because it's just agents, they're not even selling stuff that belongs to them. They can drop it by 1 Rand. How do you have to get your value proposition right. It's like, why do these guys buy from you? They're just beyond the price. Maybe you could say like delivery and have your consistent supply. I think it works when you look at things like tomatoes. We've seen the tomatoes, it was working very well because those are high value crops. It's not easy for people to grow. Because if you're a platform like us, what happened is that when farmers who are not on our platform, they struggle to sell, they drop prices. Then we struggle to help our other farmers sell. And then
that's an interesting conundrum.
So it's all those little things and nuances that are happening that makes this very dynamic and very difficult. Sometimes, like these mamas, because you end up having like an interpersonal relationship. Like when for example, if you look at the formal markets, like big retailers, formal retail markets, if I send my produce there and they can't sell, that's not my problem. I've already fulfilled my job. As long as I can miss the specs, someone else also responsible for sales, they need to manage that. In the informal market, you give like a mama there, like a crate of tomatoes. For whatever reasons, they overstock and they struggle to sell. When you come to collection, they're like, hey, Mkanami, hey, I'm struggling. It's been a tough day. Then they show I couldn't sell. Then you have to understand. And now, like, look at they're also perishable now. Like, because of those things, lack of that infrastructure to keep the cold chain consistent. Those are also those
so there's definitely opportunities there, but yeah, you got your work cut out for you.
I mean, the reason why at Agricool we've been very privileged to get where we are is because we've had backers, people who are backing us with some grant funding. I know as AgriTech, we get compared a lot with fintech, and I think I think that's very unfair in my opinion, because I mean AgriTech is where fintech was 20 years ago.
That's exciting. That's flipping exciting, and I'm loving to hear that there's more of these stories coming out, and I'm so happy to have you on and talk. So let's dive into your journey as a founder, because you started, before we pressed on record, you told me about, you know, when you first started in an incubation and you had to do it remotely, and here we are on Zoom right now. You didn't understand Zoom. So, you know, taking that agriculture sector and fusing it in South Africa with tech. Tell us about that journey and like how you've grown as a founder. Like, what was those biggest lessons that you've taken over the last 4 to 5 years?
No, sure. Amazing lessons I've learned. Like I did explain to you, the very first incubation that I was part of was FSAT Labs, and I think they're still continuing. And now and then they'll call me to assist where I can, to share my experience as a founder and help some of the. That's awesome. So I mean, that was the very first incubation, which was run by Rainier at that time. Like I did say, I was just a hustler at that time. It was even before Agrikool was like a startup in AgriTech. I mean, someone said, like, I remember, I didn't even know there was something called AgriTech. So I'm in AgriTech. Like, yeah. Then I had to go into what is AgriTech? That's when I was like, AgriTech. Oh, yes. Then I was like, I think I like this. I'd like my startup to be called an AgriTech, but I didn't know about that thing. One thing I knew, just to get some, I'm like, no, I like that. I want. So what used to happen back then at that time, we just had a group of hawkers that needed supply, and we had farmers in rural areas that needed to sell. We just had a truck every day, go collect, go sell, go collect, go sell. It was even before I would even consider it as a startup. I didn't even know it would get to this point. And to be honest, we were just making enough money. Like I was happy. I didn't have all these huge burn rates that I'm having now, that I have to stress about the payroll and stuff.
You said you were a firefighter, eh?
Yeah, I'm a firefighter. No, I wasn't a firefighter at that time. I was living comfortably, and so I mean, then I joined the incubation. Then I started to know about startup, know about AgriTech and stuff like that. I mean, when you look at Pietermaritzburg in Durban or KZN as a province, our startup ecosystem is fairly immature. If there is any, I'm not even sure if there's any. So, so I was very fortunate to be part of FSAT Labs, because that's when I just learn about how to build a business, like what is a business, what is a startup, and all those things, raising funding, and even I was even part of Africa Arena, so which is great. I even had like an arena stage where I could chat about these things, and people were excited about my ideas and stuff like that. So from there, I think I've grown tremendously as a person, as an entrepreneur. Like I said, I didn't even know, that was even before COVID. I didn't even know like how to use Zoom. I remember Rina said, yeah, Zamo, do you see there, like there's a share button? I'm like, what's share button? And I didn't understand. So, but I mean, they really helped us to understand and build a business. But there's also many other incubations. You know, like I always say, I mean, I think there's many incubations in South Africa doing wonderful work. I've been also part of they've linked us with some great mentors, but each and every incubation that we join, I mean, there's something that you learn from it. But I always tell entrepreneurs, one of the things, just like we have an issue of people getting overbanked in South Africa, we also have a lot of incubations as well. So you need to choose, just know like, what do I want to learn? Look at the program. Oh, I already know these things, but I renew as the guys that sales, what is the value proposition, how to pitch. I didn't know. Those are the guys that at a basic level for me to try and understand that. So I joined, I think one of the best incubations I've joined as well. I joined Alpha Code, which is great as well, because they've also helped us to get the Freshmark deal when they still are, but they've had to close down, unfortunately. But that's when I learned a lot of things about getting technical, building like a sustainable and profitable business, doing your financial modeling and stuff like that.
So what skill do you think you've learned that's stayed you the most? You know, like, is it that selling? Is it the, you know, managing people? Is it the sale? Like, what is it that you feel is standing out from the skills you've had to learn as a founder?
I think I'm a great salesperson. I've closed thinking, I mean, I think that is one of my strongest points, and I've learned that how to sell. I mean, you can look at the deals that have closed with these big retailers, and B2B sales are incredibly difficult, but I love them. I enjoy them. Even with Thumela as well, I've closed a big sale with Imperial as well, Parcel Ninja, which is part of.
What's your secret? What's your secret weapon in closing these deals?
I think I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I don't think about these things, but let me just tell you about how we closed the Freshmark deal.
Yeah.
So for over 1.5 years, if I had to answer the question before I explain the story, I'd say it's persistence and resilience.
Okay.
So what happened, Bobby, was that for over 1.5 years, I've always wanted to get a deal from Freshmark.
Okay.
Trying, not getting any luck, trying and not getting any luck. So I went to LinkedIn and I checked who are the buyers at Freshmark, people that work at Freshmark. I could see who are the buyers. And that was after in KZN we had the looting. Remember that?
Oh, wow. Yes. Yeah.
It was after that. So when I was here at the office, I was like, you know what? I just want to go to ShopRite because I've been trying to send emails, no one responded. I'll go there to the DC. Took my car, went straight. I drove to Verulam, like about 100 kilometers. When I got there, I already saw on LinkedIn that there was a guy that used to work there. But I can't remember his name. I can't remember. Now, when I got there, I got to a security guy. I said, I have a meeting with this guy. I didn't have a meeting with him. He didn't know me. I didn't know him. So when I got there, I said, hey guys, that said, no, okay, but do you have a meeting with them? I said, yeah, sure, I do have a meeting with them. They're waiting for me. I said, okay, cool, but he said, hey, I should be calling them to find out if they're waiting for you. But unfortunately, we just had looting, so the telecom system is not working. So you can just go ahead.
Oh wow!
I went in. And I even remember, so I went to the reception and said, hey, I'm here to meet. Oh shit, I can't remember the name of the guy with my phone. This guy, oh yes. I said, oh, sorry, that guy no longer works here. He left like a year ago. He's no longer.
Oh gosh.
And I said, oh no, listen, I'm just here because I work with farmers. I want to supply ShopRite. And I think it could be a great opportunity for us to work together and helping Black emerging farmers. And they said, oh no, sorry, we have enough farmers at reception. And to add on what I've said about persistence, one thing I've also learned as well is that never take no from people who can't say yes. That's very important. I mean, we say yes, so you need to take a no from us. They said, no, we can't help. As I was going down the stairs, I saw another guy as well that was having a seat. I said, hey, sir, how's it? I just came here. Do you know any of the senior buyers that you can connect? I think the most important thing, understand the hierarchy, how things work in the retail business. Because I knew there's buyers, then there's senior buyers. Senior buyers are the ones that say, oh, I like this one, give them an account. Then they start supplying. I said, oh, yes, I do know someone. What do you want? I said, oh, already we have enough farmers. So I said, would you mind giving me their email address at least so I can know cell phone number? They said, no, I'll have to check with them, take my number. And I would trouble them every day asking for the email address. Eventually, I would even think that guy wasn't happy. I said, hey, let me just give this guy the number. Then I had to email. Then eventually, I mean, after like 6 months from there, we got a deal, one of our biggest accounts. It's all that persistency and not taking no. Someone can't really say yes.
And how did it feel when you actually got to pitch? You got that account. I mean, you got the opportunity to sell your business. How did that pitch go?
No, I mean, and what I like about the pitch as well, I think you also need to we need to be realistic as sales people as well. Like we were already supplying Boxer. We were already selling some track records. So apparently one of the regional buyers now, not even the senior buyer, they said, I'm coming to KZN. I got your details. I'm told that you can help us with this supply. So I'm coming there. Organize, I want to see your farms. And I want to see your pack house as well. We didn't have a pack house.
Yeah.
We had to make a plan. I remember myself and my co-founder, Palisa, we went to buy, those silver tables that you use in a pack house. And we even had to take some cabbage leaves and throw them as if something was happening.
You're joking. That's amazing.
So when he came, I think when he came, like, okay, so what are you guys doing here with cabbage? I said, Now we just said we're sorting out some, it's a small order. Most of the order is moved from state to the farm. That's going to happen. We bring peppers here. We off-season with peppers, but this is our pack house. It looks very nice. I remember one of the nights with my friends, we even went there to that pack house that we borrowed to clean and make it look nice and need to change some lighting to stage everything.
Oh, amazing. Well, that's the life of a hustler. That's the life of a startup. And I guess that's what you have to do, eh?
And that guy said, you know what? I think he was very hesitant. I think he could feel it that there was something wrong. He said, you know what? Can you take me to any of your retail partners and show me the product that you've supplied? And we said, yeah, we can go. Let us go. Then he saw that we were confident. I think he was rushing somewhere. So let us go. I'll take you to Boxer. You'll see our broccolies and collies. Because I think he was confident. So, okay, cool. I'll send you guys a letter and everything so you guys can start signing the contract. And then we got the deal and then we had to work on it.
Thinking on your feet. That is what I'm getting out of this. Thinking on your feet. I love it. I love it.
And I mean, like I said, you just have to try and make a plan. Like, you know, there's times when we're cleaning the pack house, still even not ours. It belongs to someone else. We told them, listen, we just need this pack house for this. But we even spent like 50,000 then to buy all the mops and all the things. So that we even had to read and like, how does the pack house so that it meets the minimum requirements?
Oh my gosh.
We have to look everything like a day before.
And now, do you have a pack house? But you said you're not very asset heavy. So, I mean, are you still leveraging other people, or how's that operation very quickly?
Yeah, no, we do not have pack house, but I mean, like I did say, we think we need to consider to venture to invest in building that infrastructure, especially for the smallholder farmers. But in the interim, we partner with the medium-sized and commercial guys to leverage their infrastructure.
And
guys at the pack house. Like a forklift as well.
Okay.
So what happens is our smallholder farmers, not too far from that central point, they'll deliver there, then they'll pack, and then it lives with the one truck. So it's more like consolidation, but leveraging someone with infrastructure.
Okay. We're running out of time, but just from a technology point of view, I know you get this asked often as well, but what are you building from a tech point of view to be that AgriTech? Like, how are you building out the actual marketplace for Agrikool?
Firstly, one thing that I need to mention is that, you know, we look at the customer segment that we're servicing, specifically smallholder farmers. They're not tech people. Like they really understand tech very well. Sure. So we had to be very lean in how we build our technology. We're still building our technology. What we decided was that we realized that farmers were already using WhatsApp, and unfortunately,
so using what's there already.
Yeah, 100%. Unfortunately, COVID also helped to accelerate that because already farmers, when they sell to alternative market, they will send pictures. Yeah, I mean, there's ways, if you send like tomatoes, put like a pen next to it or a button so I could see and visualize. There's already ways that they were doing in a way like that. So, I mean, we've seen for most guys that have tried to build, if they're trying to build like a technology for those guys, building apps, they don't really log into apps. And farmers will tell you, they don't want apps. They just want to sell and make more money.
So you're just using what's there and getting them to use it to connect the dots.
But on the existing infrastructure and technology. I mean, if it wasn't for that, I think we would have run out of money a long time ago. So I think we've always taken that strategy. So like I did say, and again, farmers, I mean, they don't like these apps and all these things and stuff like that. So they were very clear with that to say, listen, when I speak to my customers, they place orders on WhatsApp. And when I show them the quality of the produce, I take pictures and upload on WhatsApp. So, and again, there's also constraint as well, which you're trying to solve around WhatsApp on how do we integrate. But we can see as time goes by, there's some developments and more access is given to developers as well. You understand better as someone who's more techy than I am. So yeah, so basically what you do, farmers are using the WhatsApp interface to send us the pictures, and then those pictures get uploaded onto our website where then that becomes an interface for our buyers. Because for them, they spend time at the offices, so they use more like a desktop. Most of them, very few are using like on WhatsApp. So that's how we do it. And I mean, from us, there was even times where we even send, there were times where before that, I think we're very big in doing things that don't scale. Like, that's what I've also the lean startup again. I remember in the early days before we started to build our technology, we used to use like a Google Sheet. So basically, we'll create like a Google Sheet and say, for spinach, what quantity and what grade do you have? For broccoli, tomatoes, how much quantities and what's grade of each do you have and which day. So it's going to be for Monday, each product line, for Tuesday, each product line. That's your forecasting, your predictions as a farmer on what you're going to have. Do the same link for buyers. On this day, how much of each product line do you
need?
Do you need? Obviously on a spreadsheets, like on a Google Sheets. And then from there, we're trying to do manually on matching that. So that's how we've done it. And yeah, I mean, we've done massive revenue on doing those things manually, but now we're starting to get into automating some of the stuff and things as simple as like, how do farmers get statements, get some dates on how much they've sold, get some KPIs on fulfillment and all those stuff to get through WhatsApp. It's just as easy to put it then they open and see. And so we just that's how we think about it. I mean,
Yeah, I think that's just the beginning. I think once the industry, like you said, AgriTech is where fintech was 10 years ago. Once I think the industry understands what can be done, they're going to start asking for more. So will opportunity of what you are able to build for them. And that's really cool.
I do agree. There's many constraints with what you're doing, but I mean, there's some key matrices as well that you also like to measure, but you can't do it on WhatsApp and stuff like that. So I remember I was having a discussion recently with someone that we've just called ourselves Agrikool because we want to make agriculture cool. And with the youth of today, because I mean, a shocking stat is that the average age of the farming community is 62. So that's very scary. So we need to get more young people.
Oh, you're joking? Really?
Yeah, wow. I mean, probably the youngest farmer in our database is someone who's like, say, 40, 35. You can see we don't have young people. And I think it's also because it's easy for someone to be an influencer because I can post on a TikTok and I know if I become an influencer and people are clicking on my link, I'm going to get paid a rand per click. I'm just making an example. It's a very easy model.
Yeah.
It's not something like that in agriculture. I always say it's a different group of people now. Like young people are not join farming religiously and like, oh, we want to farm so we can feed the nation. So this, like, if I put my 1 rand, how much am I going to get? If I do this, how much is ShopRite paying? How much the fulfillment? How much do I pay on logistic per kilometer? How do I optimize my logistics? All those things that we try to get into a dashboard and send to our farmers in a space to say, listen, this is your fulfillment ratio. Next week, when you got this, how much demand you are going to, because you couldn't fulfill. So they can work on these things. If I get
actually helping them with forecasting.
There's forecasting, all those issues. I think we need more to get young people joining agriculture. It's not about taking
pictures so interesting
and on Instagram with farmers, and that's not how we make it cool. It's about data. How do you data? And so how farmers harness that data to make data-driven decisions.
And that's a mindset, right? I think people don't realize how you can access data and how it can help you in your business. And I always, it's very corny, but the more you know, the better you can be. You know, and the more data you have is the more you will know, which means the better you can be.
100%. Even people see when we look at the analytics on LinkedIn, or you could see how many people viewed. It's so easy. And that's why you find young people leaning towards that direction to be influencers, not farmers, because it's so easy. Account already, you could compare the following. I mean, last time how it was, we want the same for our farmers. So you have a dashboard.
Zamo, we got to start a hashtag promote young farmers. Something we have to make it cool again.
100%. We have to make it cool.
Yeah, that's a very interesting opportunity. I think, a lot of people, you're so right. We're so chasing the money. We're chasing the easy equities. We're trying to chase all the easy money, but there's a real problem out there, which is feeding people, which is an honest problem. And there's a lot of opportunity there for young people to get involved and actually make a difference and make money.
Massive opportunity, Bobby. Like, I'm just thinking, currently what we're also noticing, is that, like I did say, we categorize our farmers into 3 groups: small, medium-sized, and commercial. So one thing we're realizing that a lot of medium-sized farmers, due to load shedding, inflation, they're exiting the game. So you're left with the smallholder farmers and commercial for obvious reasons. Size, they're too big. They're too small to benefit from the unit economies like the bigger guys, but they're also too big as well to compete with smallholder farmer. Because if you yourself have 10,000 cabbages and look at each and every cabbage like it's your child, your yield ratio or cut ratio will be probably like 90%. You could sell like, let's say, 9,000. If you sell that 9,000 at a good price, you would be able to make money. So it's only yourself and your family, 4 of you guys looking after this field. You'd make more money than what most graduates are paid in internship and stuff like that. If that makes sense.
That's an interesting statement out there. I feel someone needs to
I mean,
do a thesis on.
I don't want to mention the numbers because people will think I'm that guy that say if you multiply that. I don't want to be like, I've seen this. It's been happening. We've got farmers that we've told them, listen, you do 20,000, scale to 10,000. Let it be yourself, your neighbors, and your family doing this. It's a small scale. So that's what now the farmer can't do now, like the medium size. That's why they struggle. But the commercial guys, they can buy in bulks the fertilizer. That's why. Either you're too small or too big. So because now these guys are exiting the game, they're selling farms. I mean, at least I know like 5 of them that are also for sale in the Midlands, and there's more than that. So that's where I think there's opportunity. Even also the industry, it's even self-correcting. Big retailers are wanting to buy from small retailers because even themselves, there's no sustainability in what they're doing if the average age of the farming community is 62 in South Africa. They know. They're worried about that. They want young people to get involved. That's why they think the best thing is also even work with us as young people as well. Probably we can get other people to come in. But also, and I did say, as Agrikool, we have a responsibility to make farming cool. Like I did say, cool, it does not mean sharing pictures on Instagram and LinkedIn. It's about data driven, because even banks as well, I mean, it's going to be easy, because that's what happened for an influencer to get like a gig for Standard Bank or whatever. They need to show the dates and like, these are number of people that are coming to my profile. We need to do the same for the farmers as well, so they could go to a bank and like, listen, this is the numbers I've been supplying Agrikool. This is if you could help me with a cash injection of this much at this interest rate, I could bring it. That's exactly what we need to do.
You know, Zamo, I mean, I feel like we could open another can of worms and we won't, but I do feel like it's like you know, you need leadership. You need people to be motivating, telling them there's this opportunity. Let's grab it. You know, with a country with such a high unemployment, with the food problem, like, you know, people are out there hungry. So there's jobs, you're feeding people. Man, let's get these problems solved.
We are asking for more people to come in. Like, I mean, we are like also the barrier to entry, it's very low. I will be like, I mean, if you could, I mean, the most challenging thing is to get land. And also I always say, don't overthink it. Just go to someone with like a 50 hectares and ask them, can I lease a hectare, 50, and leverage some of the infrastructure. People are it's a very small community. They just want someone like a neighbor that they could talk to. You know, like when I go visit farmers, it's the most difficult thing for me because I have to visit a farmer each day because they talk forever because they don't have a lot of people to chat to and talk about the challenges, friends. You understand? So if you could come, they want to make friends. Some people to share grievances, read about the fertilizer and all those things, about the challenges with irrigation due to load shedding. So if you had like, say, 40,000 rand, you want to do like a quarter of a hectare, said, I want to start and do this and get us. I mean, we've got people who've had some very smart people here that understand primary culture. That's not my strongest point, but they say, listen, this is what you need to buy. This is what, be careful of that. There's so that we've got a pool of people that can assist in making it work. But I think there's a massive opportunity for a lot of people to grab. Like the impact also is enormous. Like employment opportunity, and
I'm going to get into farming after talking to you.
Yeah, definitely come. I mean,
what's this influencer business? Come on, let's go farm some.
And I mean, I don't like saying this, but obviously it is a high risk business, but the return are also high as well.
Yeah, there's a strong return. There's a good ROI on it.
There's a strong return, but obviously the return is as proportional as the risk you're also taking as well. One of the things we're very excited about, Bobby, like last year for the first time last month, we reached profitability as our business. I mean, looking at the numbers right now with the orders that we already have, if we could fulfill 50% of the orders that are remaining, we're also going to be profitable. So it took 3.5 years for us to get where we are.
That's what I was about to ask, because it's scary. You talk about companies that take years and years and years to get profitable. So that's brilliant, Zamo. Well done.
But I mean, the reason why I'm mentioning that is because I want to thank everyone that has been part of the journey, from like really a mentor and also funders as well, because they've been very patient with us. That's a big challenge that we find in the AgriTech, that there's no patient funding. Like, unfortunately, you can't plant a seed today and harvest tomorrow. So that's the nature of the industry. So already, if you think that's going to happen as an investor, you should stay away from AgriTech and call yourself an AgriTech investor. So for us, we've had people giving us money because there's a lot of experimentation. Like we're the first ones to do it, or rather, there's very few of us that are doing. There's a lot of experimentation. You're gonna spend money and make some mistakes. So we've had people that are like, okay, we see some improvement on the numbers as well. Like we could see revenue growing. You could see
because they invest in the people too, right?
100%. So we're very lucky to be here and to achieve what we already have. But I mean, we could make more money if more people get into farming as well. Unfortunately, that's the only way we could make money, when we get more people to farm, because our problem is not the business as in getting demand. We have an oversupply of demand. There's massive demand, but we don't have enough people to supply us. And also looking from a sustainability perspective, we are struggling to get young people to get into the value chain.
To be a little bit controversial, I mean, in South Africa, there's the whole land argument. And do you feel like that's the problem? Because there's not enough, you kind of touched on it earlier. Is there just not access to land, or there is land and it's people aren't using it? Is there a discrepancy with who owns the land? As we see in the news, like where do you see the biggest problem is?
Yeah, I mean, I get asked that question a lot, but
really,
yeah, a lot. I mean, it's a political question. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not a politician.
Yeah, I know it's
sure, but I mean, I will answer. I'm not to say I don't want to answer that question, but in my view, I don't think the issue is largely with the land. I'll tell you why. There's many farms in the early days when we started with as Agrikool, it was through land reform. In the early days, they got everything, tractors, packers, everything, even some cash injection as well. But ran those farms onto the ground as well. I think more than if I had to, I think that the farming industry in South Africa needs more people that are willing to get their hands dirty. More than, I don't think the issue of land, I think I think it's a political statement and stuff like that. I mean, they must come and ask us. We know what's the problem. I don't think the problem is with land, or maybe land it is an issue, but it's not an overarching issue in this problem. There's a lot of Black people that I know that I get along with access to land that are underutilizing that land. There's many farms, Bobby, where many farms, more than 1,000 of hectares, if I could combine all of them, they were part of the reform. I don't know, what do they call it? It was part of the reform program given to certain people.
Land reform,
land reform. So the problem now, Bobby, is that people, especially us Black people, now because they fought, no one is even using that land because there's 3 factions on that 100 hectares with proper infrastructure. So you could see now, and you even find most of it even goes back to other people. Obviously, I'd like to see also on the other side, see more commercial farmers empowering workers. Like even us as Agrikool, one thing I did not mention, we started to get into production for some of the lines. One thing I've realized, I usually tell a story that I had never eaten or seen broccolis and collies until I started Agrikool. And we struggled to get smallholder farmers to plant red cabbage, broccolis, collies, because no one wants to plant what they don't eat. Because the worst case now is that if I can't sell it, I need to. If I can't.
Yeah, you need to throw it away.
Consume it.
You would eat it.
Yeah. So, and unfortunately, so we have big retailers saying, please give us broccolis. We just said, okay, let's get a few hectares. We have a farm that we also use as our central collection point for inventory, crates and stuff like that. We've recently listed a small farm, 10 hectares. So we plant those crops like wheat. It's niche. They're very niche for restaurants and stuff like that.
Yes.
One thing we've realized, you said, Palisa, I mean, we are very lucky to be here running a company that is sustainable now. Obviously, we're going to scale and get more people. It's not going to be the case anymore. But I mean, how about we get half a hectare, fund that half a hectare, get all the workers that we've employed in this farm and say, it's theirs. They must look after it. We're going to find only ones from our money. We want to help them with access to market. The only thing that they need to do is to come and work on weekends or get extra hour after they work so that they can look after it. It belongs to them. I think we need more of that impact because they're already doing some stuff, huge stuff for us. Get a hectare, call your workers, 20 of them and say, hey guys, here's a fertilizer and this. They already know. You just have to help them with technicalities. I will provide access to markets. I'll be transparent. If you don't want to can sell to the market, they're going to give you a better price. But what I want you guys to bring back the money that I give to you guys so that it's more like a revolving soft loan for free where you could just run. As impactful as that. I think that's what, I mean, farm workers and everyone, they're not asking for much. And I mean, I've been to farms where they own like 200 hectares where they're owned by a white person. When you ask, because when you ask a white farmer, like you ask them, like the farm workers, so what do you think of land? How do you think of you guys getting the land back? They say, no, we think we are happy because we get employment. That farm there, it was owned by someone, a commercial farmer, and was handed over to the community that then we had to lose employment. So I'm not sure. I think it's a very premature conversation to have at this stage. And especially looking at the cost of fuel, the cost of food rather, I think it's very premature. And like I did say, like I'm an entrepreneur, but I always hear all these political statements. And also we have issues, one of our big issues when we spoke about the youth, I kept on saying like, Bobby, it's not even about being on Instagram. There's a lot of Insta farmers, but there's very few proper farmers. That's a challenge we're having. Our strategy doesn't work on posting and say we're looking for farmers because there's like millions of farmers. There's a lot of aesthetics that are happening on social media. There's very few people that want to get their hands dirty. That's a big challenge. If there's anything to solve,
how do we reward people? So your idea is about rewarding people that do get their hands dirty. It's like, how do we, like, you want to create accountability and say, here is 10 hectares and you're accountable for what comes through here. It's about how do you motivate them to do that on a week-to-week basis.
100%. And another challenge we're also having as well, it's also government as well. I mean, our goal is to transform smallholder farmers to commercial production. Per commercial production, I don't mean do 100 hectares. We just want smallholder farmers to think commercially and understand the numbers and all the stuff. That's what we mean. The big challenge as well, I think government also, his strategy is also very counterproductive to our goal. I'll explain this, how it happens. I mean, I don't think you could ever transition or help empower any smallholder farmers that get agri inputs for free to think commercially. Because as soon as they get something for free, they don't know how to account that on their books as well. And they're also going to want to get, that makes sense. I think, yes, give someone land if you want to, but only give them once. Not this thing of like, and also the issue, because it's a government tender, there's always delays. You know how government works. They get those agri inputs very late. When you come like, why your cabbages, why your produce look like, say, yeah, but I was waiting for government to get this thing. Because now there's a big challenge in South Africa that we all have. We have a big sense of entitlement. That's a big challenge. And government is making it difficult for us to help farmers because if you say, I'm going to help you and give you a market excess of 100,000, I want you to take 50% and deposit into the seedlings and this and this. I can do that directly from your account, from Agrikool. I can pay them directly. And later in the next season, you can use that credit to buy agri inputs. They don't want because they want to get things for free from government. That's
and this is a problem. This is the problem because Renier talks about it all the time. He says, if you're not going to go with the government, the opportunity within the private industry, if we can just get the private people just doing the market, doing it themselves and getting the reward, you'll see better results.
I mean, we are a typical example of that. Like, we've never gotten any help from government. We not want to affiliate ourselves with government. And I'll tell you why. Because once people think you're affiliated with government, they expect you to give free service. When you say, I'm going to help you with this cabbages, I will take a 1 rand or a 1% or 10%. They don't want that because like, you're robbing them, you're a government. Because they're so used to getting things for free. It's a very big problem for us. It's an
opportunity for the privatized market, for the private market to get involved because, again, you said there is demand, there is no supply. So it's not, you know what I mean? So privatized, we can see, like, if there was an opportunity in the farming sector, is get the supply. That's what I'm hearing from you. Just find people that can up the supply.
Like I said, Bobby, everyone, Nile, Kula, they're having the same problem. That's why Kula even decided to go into like be like a marketplace for agri inputs because the assumption they were struggling to get supply. It's a big challenge. That's why they even pivoted. They're struggling to get supply.
So interesting.
As frank as it is, like if you listen to the guys from now, they struggle to get supply. I mean, for them it's easy because they work with well-established farmers. I'm not easy, but it's not as bad as working with smallholder farmers, but it's a big challenge. I won't lie. I don't even.
Sure.
It's tough. tough.
But that's an opportunity for Agricool, right? So
Yeah, massive
let's call it there, Zamo. Let's call it there, because yeah, but that was powerful. Sadly, I could carry on this conversation. I think I've got loads of questions I could still ask. Maybe we'll have to bring you back on after a couple of months and you can tell us more about Thumela, because we didn't barely touched on that. But thank you so much for coming on and sharing your stories. It's really phenomenal to hear. And I hope that we've inspired some people and some farmers and some founders out there to go out there and get their hands dirty.
No, 100%. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, Bobby. Thank you. I appreciate it.